One of Mr. Palmer's favorite meals was meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. We're gonna do a little play on that. We're gonna make some meatloaf sliders for Clubhouse Eats. All right, we're gonna start with 2 pounds of ground beef, 85/15. I like a little bit of fat. Why do I cut it like this? I don't know, I just find it easy. I just go across, I go across, I go across, and then I dig it out. Now, if you're making burgers, what makes it easy is that now I've got 4 quarter-pound burgers and I don't really have to think about measuring. But today we're using 2 pounds of beef. I'm just gonna drop it in the bowl. We're gonna use 1 yellow onion. There's a certain way to cut an onion. I'll get butchered if I don't cut this right. So I'm gonna take it long way, end to end, cut it right down the middle. And then how I've learned to cut an onion and how you hold a knife. I used to hold a knife like this. This is not how you hold a knife. So you put your finger right there, right up against the edge so you can kind of control the blade. And then you just make little slices almost to the end, but not all the way to the end. And then I like to keep my knuckle on the board, and I'm just gonna make a little bit of a slice right down the middle, but I'm not gonna go all the way. And then I'm just gonna slice it, or dice it, as they say. One other tool in the kitchen that's good to have, we use that a lot. I really don't even know what this is called. I think it's more for like baking and pasta. I just use it to kind of scoop ingredients. And it's easy just to scoop stuff up, and we're gonna drop that in. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the other half of our onion. Of course, we need some garlic. We're gonna use 3 cloves. So those aren't massive. So I'm gonna use 4. That's just one thing to keep in mind. Like, whatever you're cooking, like, recipes are meant to be changed. It really doesn't matter. If you like garlic, then put more garlic in it. If you don't like garlic, then put less garlic in it. So garlic, it has this like really annoying skin around it. You just take a knife, put it right over the top, give it a smash, and it will pop right out. And then I'm gonna get a little mincer, another tool that I like in the kitchen. I do like to cut the ends off. You can throw a couple in there. I'm just gonna give that a press, take my knife, cut it out. You could probably use the other side of the blade so you're not dulling it. I got that tip from Guy Fieri recently. He watched one of my videos. First thing he said to me when I met Guy Fieri was like, "Hey bud, use the other side of the knife." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're dulling your knife every time that you're doing it, just like I did there." So he said, flip it over, and then you never are dulling your knife. We're gonna need 2 eggs. A lot of people like doing it on the edge. You should crack an egg on a flat surface. When you do it on the edge, it's more likely that the eggshell will go in. And when you do it on a flat surface, then it kind of breaks away a little bit smoother. No eggshells drop into your ingredient bowl. I'm gonna give this now a little mix. I'm gonna throw some gloves on. You don't wanna work it over too much, and then we will continue to add our ingredients. We're gonna use some milk. So we're gonna do 1/3 cup of milk. We're gonna go with some plain breadcrumbs. You can use seasoned if you want. This calls for 3/4 cup. And we're gonna add some ketchup next. I'm gonna put about 3 tablespoons in. I'm gonna call that 1. I'm gonna call that 2. I'm gonna call that 3. So paprika, I'm gonna go about 1/2 teaspoon. And then next up is like a general Italian seasoning. And I'm gonna go about 1/2 teaspoon of that as well. Next up is salt and pepper. So with 2 pounds of beef, I'm gonna say that is about 1/2 teaspoon. And that's about 1/2 teaspoon. 2 pounds of beef, you need some salt. And then I'm gonna go a little bit less on the pepper, just 1 big pinch. Last thing we're gonna do is add some parsley. I just kinda like to shave it right off the top. When you're cutting anything really small, let the knife do all the work. And now we're in good shape, and it's kind of ground down. Move this over, drop it right on top. We're gonna get back to mixing up. Now I'm just gonna take one hand and just kind of gently bring all this together. This time I'm just gonna work the edges. I'm gonna rotate the bowl, and you can see it'll start pulling everything off the edge. All right, so let's get our loaf pans ready. I got 2 9x5 loaf pans, and I've got 2 pieces of parchment paper. Now, parchment paper will make the meatloaf not stick to the pan. I'll pull half of this out and I'm gonna place it right into this loaf pan, and I'm gonna gently press this down. And we're gonna do the exact same thing with the second one. Press it down gently. There we go. All right, so we preheated our oven at 375. We are gonna cook the meatloaf for 40 minutes, and in the meantime, we're gonna make a little sauce. After 40 minutes, we're gonna put this glorious sauce on top, let that caramelize and finish up. So we're gonna go 3/4 cup of ketchup, drop that in. About 2.5 tablespoons of brown sugar, and then got garlic powder, and we got onion powder. I'm gonna go a little bit more on the garlic side. We're gonna go 1 teaspoon, and then I'm gonna go about a half. So call that 1.5 teaspoons. We've got a whole yellow onion already in our meatloaf, but I'm gonna put some onion powder in. Onion powder always makes things better. I'm just gonna go a little bit lighter, a little bit less than 1 teaspoon. Salt and pepper, like 1/4 teaspoon. Little pinch, equal parts, little pinch, we're good. I'm gonna go about 1 teaspoon or so of white vinegar. When we put this on top of the meatloaf, it's gonna caramelize. That's what that brown sugar is gonna do for you. And there's obviously sugar in ketchup as well. When I had meatloaf at Arnold Palmer's restaurant, that's what it tasted like. So that's what we're trying to recreate here. And we're gonna keep this out at room temperature. We're done. All right, it's been 40 minutes. We're gonna grab that meatloaf, put the sauce on top. Oh, perfect. So you can see here, the meat has shrunk a little bit, and you've got all these little juices that have collected around the edges. Don't get rid of that. We are gonna use that for later, but right now, we are gonna drizzle and brush the top with our sauce. You can be generous. It's gonna get caramelized. It's gonna add great flavor to our meatloaf. And then we're just gonna evenly brush it right on top. So I'm gonna use all this sauce. There's no reason not to. Now, we're gonna go back in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. Let that sauce get settled, and we're gonna pull the meatloaf when it hits an internal temperature of at least 160, 165 max. All right, it's been about 20 minutes. We're gonna go grab that meatloaf. Oh yeah, it's got great color, got a little caramelized top. Juices are flowing off the side. Hopefully Mr. Palmer would be proud. We're gonna let that rest for about 10 minutes, come together. In the meantime, we're gonna toast our buns. I normally use King's Hawaiian buns, but I don't use the sweet rolls. I use the savory butter rolls. I'm gonna pull this out. I'm just gonna take a big bread knife. Again, I'm gonna put my knuckle on the cutting board so I can try to get a nice consistent cut across. Perfect. The great thing about these is we're gonna put this together as one big slider. And then we're gonna butter this. We keep our butter at room temperature at all times. We found this somewhere, I'm not really sure where, but I think it's cool. So we always have softened butter, always ready. And we're gonna butter our bread. Let's toast them. So we keep this Lodge griddle on our stovetop. I've got it like on medium low heat. Let that go a little bit. You can hear it sizzle. They'll probably toast for 3 to 4 minutes. I like to take the buns and just kind of move them around, soak up all of that butter. So let's take a peek at them real quick. Perfectly toasted. We're gonna drop it right here on the board that we're gonna serve the sliders on. Flip them over. They're now soft and they are warm and they are toasted, and that's why you always toast the buns. Before I move the meatloaf over, I'm gonna get some of those juices and capture them in a little bowl here. That is the goodness right there. Do that on both of them. We're just gonna lift these out. Lift this out. Take this parchment paper out. So when you're making your sliders, you can make them as thin or as thick as you want. And I'm gonna go about yay. Take that down, slide it right on top. That's gonna be a thick slider. But when I went to Arnold Palmer's restaurant, it was a thick slider. So we're gonna do 3 slices going this way And then we're gonna go 2 on the side. Put that right on top. If a piece falls out, just eat it. And now, this is where that fat comes in. If you wanna put some cheese on it, if you wanna put barbecue sauce on it, you can do whatever you wanna do. This is now all the rendered fat, and I'm just gonna take it and drizzle it right over the top. That's gonna soak into the bread. The rest of it, I'll probably just pour it right over the top of that, and that's gonna make for some great leftovers. We're gonna take our bun, put it right over the top. We're gonna cut this into a dozen sliders. When you're gonna serve it to your guests, I like to cut them, pull them apart, and give them a little bit of air between each slider, and we're ready to have some sliders. It's soft, full of flavor. That's a slider for a king. That's damn good.